So Carolyn, if you want to record it.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Illinois Blue STEM Author Chat. My name is Kim Hazel Redden. I am the Publicity Co-Chair of the Blue STEM Award. We have some guests with us today. We have a representative from ISLE. So I will turn over her and let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Caroline Campbell, and I work for ISLE, and I will be managing the Zoom room.
Thank you. And we have students from across Illinois here with us today. We have students from River Trail School, and we have students from North Elementary in Villa Park, and they're going to be asking questions for our author today. And we are very lucky because we have one of our nominated authors with us today. We have Colleen Paeff, who wrote this awesome book, The Great Stink, How Joseph Bazalgette Solved London's Poop Pollution Problem. This was such an interesting book with some Easter eggs that I learned from the video that she made for us. So I'm going to turn over to her and let her introduce herself, and then we're going to get started with questions, and we'll be starting with Miss Aldridge's class. So Miss Aldridge's class, hang tight, and we're going to turn it over to our author.
Okay, hi. Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. I'm happy to meet you all, and I can't wait to hear what your questions are. So I am the author of The Great Stink. The illustrator is Nancy Carpenter, and I have some pictures that I could share with you that I thought you might be interested in seeing. So I'm going to see if I can share my screen. These pictures are from a presentation that I normally do, but I'm not going to do the full presentation because I want you guys to have time to ask questions. But I thought I would show you some of these because you can sort of see how they ended up in the book. Okay, here's an example. So these are pictures from a comic that came out in the 1850s. And you can see, I don't know how easily you can see, but you can see that Nancy Carpenter sort of took those comics and then made her own version of them in the end papers, which I thought was very cool. And then here's another thing she took from the comics, which was, you can see this skeleton giving water to the people and the children. And then in the illustrations in the book, you also, I'm sure you guys noticed if you read the book, a lot of skeletons in there. And we can talk later if you want about why she chose to use skeletons. It's one of my favorite parts of the book. And then here's something else that I thought was super interesting. Actually, let me see if I can make this bigger. Does it look bigger to you guys now? Or is it the same? Probably the same. Doesn't matter. So this is one of Nancy's early drawings of one of the very first pages of the book. And this is how it ended up in the book. So I just love showing readers this because I think we all know that as writers, we're always, I'm sure you guys, when you're doing assignments in school, you're writing something and then your teacher gives you comments and then you have to change it. But you can see that the illustrator is also doing the same thing. Also, trying something, thinking, I don't think that quite works, and then trying something else. So I love that you can see the big difference between those two. And then you can also see this is a research trip that I took to the actual Nest pumping station, which is in the book. And you can see this big flywheel here. And you can see the big beam engines over there. And then that's the picture in the book. So I just think I love to look at those two things side by side. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. I just wanted to show you guys those few things really quick. And now we can go to questions if anybody has questions.
All right, so Miss Aldridge's class you guys will start us off with your two questions, and then after we'll go to Miss Handler's class if you want to be ready. So I'll turn it over to you guys.
Introduce yourself.
Let's see. Where do you have to stand?
I'm Jackie, and my question is, how long did it take you to make the book?
It took me 2 years to work on the book. I wasn't working on it the whole time, like every single day for 2 years, but Excuse me. Hi, I first got the idea in 2016, and then I did a bunch of research and I wrote it like a bunch of different times, lots of different ways. And then in 2018, I sold the book to a publisher. And then it took from 2018, it took 19, 20, 21, 3 years for it to actually come out and be an actual book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Mackenzie. Why did you want to make the book?
I just thought the story was so fascinating. Lots of people actually ask me why did I want to write a book about poop? And I didn't actually want to write a book about poop. But what happened was I first heard the name, The Great Stink, and I thought that just piqued my interest because it's kind of funny. And then I went and I did some research and I found out that the stink was caused by poop in the river, which was so outrageous to me that, that people thought it was okay to send all of their waste into the river. And then I found out that it was an engineer who basically saved the day. And so I thought that was a really interesting story. And I liked that it was an engineer that was the hero. And also I have to add that we still have poop going into our rivers and waterways today, which really surprised me. Not as much as they did in the Great Stink, but it still happens. That's why when you, after a heavy rain, you should never go in the water because there could be poop in there. Thank you
Thanks for that tip. All right, Miss Handler's class, you're next. And after Miss Handler's class, we're going to go to Miss Giovanelli's class. If you want to be ready, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi.
What made
Well, tell her your name first.
my name's Amelia, and what made you start wanting to write books?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always liked making stories up. Like I always had a big imagination and I was always creating stories in my head. And like at recess, my friends and we always had these big, elaborate worlds that we kind of lived in, and we pretended to be characters in these worlds. And I finally started writing stories down when I was in college. And from there, I think that was when I first realized that writing books was, actually something you could do, as a grown-up person for a career. And that was when I started wanting to do it. It took a long time, though. I had lots of side roads that I took on the way. Thank you for your question.
Loud and proud. Right. Sorry. Okay. She's coming up. Come on.
Oh, wait. One more from Miss Handler's class, and then we'll go to Miss Giovanelli's class.
Avery, and I was wondering, do you like to write fiction books more or nonfiction books?
I started out writing fiction books, but now I write more nonfiction books than I write fiction books. And I think it's one of the reasons is that when you're writing a nonfiction book, you, especially of course, because it's not for school, so I get to choose any subject that interests me. And then I get to really learn a lot about that subject. And it's really fun. And also you can ask people questions, like people that are very knowledgeable about the subject, who are working in that field. You can just email them and say, hey, I'm writing a book about this subject, and I was wondering if I could ask you some questions. And they almost always say yes. So you get to meet really interesting people. And just recently, my husband and I went to Iceland because I decided to write a book about these kids in Iceland who rescue baby puffins in the middle of the night. These baby puffins fly away from their nest and they get stuck in town and they're too weak to fly away. So the kids and their families come out like at midnight and they rescue these puffins. And because I was writing a book about it, I went and I got to experience it myself. So that's something that I really love about nonfiction. I always try to incorporate like travel or field trips or something into it. So that's, I think for now, I like nonfiction better, but I'll probably go back to fiction at some point.
All right, so we're going to go to Miss Giovanelli's class, and then Miss Robertson's class, you'll be next.
And I attend North School in Middle Park, and my question is, how does it feel to be a published author?
It feels amazing. It takes a really long time. Well, I think in most cases, it takes a really long time. And for example, for me, I wrote my very first story for children when I was in college. So I was probably 18 years old, but I didn't get my first book published until I was 50. So it felt really good to finally do it, and to know that even though I may have stopped writing for a little while throughout the years to do other things, that I always came back to it and I persevered, and I actually did something that was hard, but I kept working at it and I didn't give up, and that feels really good. Thank you for asking that question.
My name is Emmanuel, and my question is, who encouraged you to write?
Gosh. You know what? I don't think anyone especially encouraged me to write. In some ways, I sort of encouraged myself, because it's such a, you're doing so much of it on your own. And I did a lot of reading when I was young, but I didn't do a lot of writing. So I didn't really, have a teacher or a grown-up reading my work and saying, oh yeah, this is good, keep going. I sort of had to do it myself. But then what I did was I surrounded myself with other people who were doing the same thing. And once I did that, then we all encouraged each other to write. And I still have that today. So I still have lots of friends who are writers, and we always encourage each other, because even after you get a book out, you would think that after you have a book published that suddenly it becomes easier, but actually it doesn't really. You still have to do all the same stuff, but at least you know in your head that you did it once, so you can probably do it again.
Great, so we're going to go to Miss Robertson's class, and then Miss Aldrich's class. We're going to go back to you, so you'll be after them. So if you want to have your students ready, so we'll turn over to Miss Robertson's class.
Brianna? That's a question, Brianna. Why did you become an author?
Part of it, I think, is because I like stories, and then also part of it is because I'm really curious. And it allows me to learn about something that I'm curious about. And also, I feel like it's a little bit like putting a puzzle together, and I love puzzles. So you're trying to figure out how to make the story work so that so people who are reading it will understand it and maybe will feel something when they're reading it. I think a little bit it has to do with curiosity and enjoying the sort of puzzle making process of writing something. Good question. Thank you.
My name is Jamal. I'm Elijah Johnson. What is your most famous book? My name is Jamal Jones Jr.
My most favorite book or most famous?
Favorite
that I didn't write?
No, that you wrote.
Oh, okay. Okay. This is the only one that's been published, but I have 2 more books coming out next year. And right now, the one that's my favorite is one called Firefly Song. I think it's coming out next August, and it's about this woman who discovered these fireflies in the Smoky Mountains that flash at the same time. Not exactly the same time, but they kind of twinkle together for 6 seconds, and then they all stop flashing together for 6 seconds. And so it's this woman's story, and it's a true story. She wasn't a scientist or anything, but now she's one of the world's top experts in fireflies. And I got to go to Tennessee and meet her and see these fireflies. And I just saw the illustrations for the first time for this book, and I think it's going to be really beautiful. So right now, that's my favorite. I'm sure it'll change, but thank you for asking.
So we're going to go to Miss Alder's class, but I'm going to say we'll go down to one question. Well, yeah, and we'll stick with two. We'll stick with two. I think we have enough time. So we'll go to Miss Alder's class, and then Miss Handler, you'll be after them.
My name's Archie, and the question that I have is, what was your favorite part of writing this book?
Definitely, I would say the field trip type things that I did, going out, because when I worked on it, my husband was working in London, so I was living in London. And so I got to see where Joseph Bazalgette's house was and where his office was, and kind of imagine what it must have been like for him walking from his house to his office, and the smells and the sounds. And then I got to, like you saw in that picture, I got to visit the Crossness pumping station. Definitely that was my favorite. Good question.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Daniel, and what was your first nonfiction book?
This is actually my first nonfiction book that I've had published, and it's not my first nonfiction book that I've ever written. I wrote another one before I wrote this one, but that one hasn't been published. So
Right.
This one is the first to be published.
Miss Handler's class, you're up now, and then after Miss Handler's class will be Miss Giovanelli's class.
My name is Beckett, and where do you your ideas from?
Really all over the place. So this idea came from a book that I was reading. Sometimes I'll just be talking to somebody and they mention something interesting, and I think, oh, I wonder if that could be a book. A friend of mine, that book about the kids rescuing baby puffins, a friend of mine sent me a magazine article about it. And even in the title, she wrote, "Your next picture book." And I read that. And so that's where I got that idea. I had the Firefly book actually also came from a magazine article that I read. I was traveling in India and I saw these really cool painted trucks. And so I started doing research about painted and decorated trucks around the world. And then that led to my other book that's coming out next year, which is called Rainbow Truck. And so it's usually kind of a combination of, going out places, talking to people, and reading things.
And how long does
Go to the camera.
how long
Go to the camera.
Wait, 1 second. Miss Handler's class, did you have another question?
Sorry, I heard one. Here she comes.
Oh, sorry.
I'm Reagan, and I would like to ask, would you rather be an illustrator than an author, or do you like being an author?
Well, if I had the skills to be an illustrator, I would love to be an author and an illustrator, but I never really learned how to draw. In fact, yesterday I was trying to draw Simba, the lion from The Lion King, for this little 2-year-old friend of mine, and it did not go very well. So if I had the skills, and if I had the, because I know it's not just about skill, it's about actually practicing a lot. And if I had the patience to practice, I would love to be able to be an illustrator too. But for now, I'm happy with being an author.
All right, Miss Giovanelli's class, you're up, and then Miss Robertson's class, you'll be after them.
Hello, my name is Sasha, and how long does it take to write you a book?
It depends on the book. So this book, like I said before, took me about 2 years. The puffin book that I was telling you guys about, that I just have been working on, I went to Iceland in September, and I just finished like a 3rd or 4th draft of the book. So September, October, November, December, January, February, that was 5 months. But now what'll happen is, so I finished a version of the story that I think is pretty good. I had some friends read it. They gave me feedback. I changed it based on their feedback. I sent it back to my friends. I changed it again. And now I'm really happy with the story after 5 months. And now I sent it to my agent. She's going to read it and she's probably going to want me to change some things. So probably in the end, maybe it'll end up taking about 7 or 8 months, depending on how many things she wants me to change. So I would say anywhere from like 6 months to 5 years.
All our questions have been answered already.
All right, so we'll go over to Miss Robertson's class.
Hi, my name is Marcos. I have a question. Do you enjoy being an author?
Yes, I love it. Sometimes it's frustrating because sometimes, there's something that I'm trying to write and it's just not coming out right, or, I'm struggling to figure out how to make something work. Like, for example, that rainbow truck book about the decorated trucks that I was telling you guys about. I had to put that story away for almost a whole year because I couldn't figure out how to make it work. And then all of a sudden, one day, boing, the light bulb went off in my head and I knew how to make it work. So I got it back out and I revised it and I sent it to my agent and we sold it. So now I realize that I lost the thread of this. What was your question?
Do you enjoy being an author?
Sorry. Yes, the answer is yes. It can be frustrating, but yes, overall. And actually, I especially love writing books for kids because, when I get to do things like this and talk to kids, that's my favorite thing of all.
One other question.
Hi, my name is Gerardo, and how much books do you plan on making?
As many as I can. I'm always making them, but whether or not somebody buys them is sort of out of my control. I can make them as good as I can make them, and then I can try to get someone to buy them. But I just plan on continuing to make them until I can't do it anymore.
All right, so we'll go around and we'll do one question this time. And I know, Ms. Giovanelli, you said that your class was finished. So we'll go, and if you have a question, you can have someone ask it, and then we'll wrap up. So we'll go start back up with Miss Aldridge's class. We'll do one question each this time. So if you have a question, you could go ahead and ask it.
Hi, my name is Nathan, and what was your first chapter book that you made?
Well, you know what? I've never actually... Wait, the first that I wrote or that I read?
I wrote.
I've never written a chapter book. I've started writing one. I have a couple ideas for some, but I've never written one.
All right, Miss Handler's class. And then Miss Robertson's class will be back to you.
How many times?
Say your name.
Well, hi, I'm Horizon. How many times did you change like your book?
Oh gosh, lots of times. But the one thing that never changed was the very first line of the book, where it says, let me see, no matter how you describe it, smelly, foul, fetid, rank, putrid, bad, or reeking, in the summer of 1858, London's River and Thames stank. That's how I started it, and that is still how it is in the book today. But overall, I would say, like, I changed little things here and there at least 20 times, maybe 30 times. And then when we sent it out to publishers, 17 publishers rejected it, until finally the 18th one said yes, that they would make it into a book. Good question, thanks.
All right, Miss Robertson's class will end with you.
Hi, my name is Jackson. and I have a question. Was being an author your first choice of having a job?
No, actually, I wanted to be a ballerina. I used to take ballet classes many times a week, but then when I was in high school, we moved, and so I had to go switch to a different dance studio, and I just stopped taking classes. But yeah, I still love dancing, but I don't do ballet anymore.
We have one more question from our class, if that's okay.
That's okay.
Hi, I'm Savannah. And how many years officially have you been an author for?
Well, I guess it sort of depends on how you define author. So I sold my first book in 2018. So if you define it by when you have actually sold a book and gotten money for it, that would be 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 6 years. But if you count it by how long you've been actually writing stories and trying to get them published, but getting rejected, that would be 18, 28, 38, 48, 36 years. I'm not very good at math. Somewhere around 30, 35 years. But I've been an official, published or close to published author for a lot less.
So I'm going to end with you. Is there anything that you want to tell us that we didn't ask? Are there any last words you have for us?
I would just say thank you for having me, and thanks for reading my book. And I really enjoyed talking to you guys and answering your questions. And anyone who is interested in being a writer, the most important thing you can do is just to keep on doing it. Even when you're getting rejected, just go back to it. Even if you take a break for a little while, like I did, you can still go back to it later. So that's my advice.
Great. So we want to thank Colleen Paeff for taking the time to answer all of your amazing questions today. And thank you for writing such a great book that we had on our list. And teachers, you can unmute, and students, you can say your goodbyes, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.